Get everybody here. All right, welcome to our special board meeting of the whole, committee of the whole. So, I think we just huh? Yeah, just do the roll call. So, Lisa is out remotely, so we'll wait to bring her in. Right. So if I can ask the clerk to take the roll call. Sure.
Trustee Brennan,
Here.
Trustee Johnson,
Here.
Trustee O'Connell,
Here.
Trustee Bachner,
Here.
Trustee Vasquez,
Here.
President Aducey.
Yeah, here. And then I ask for a motion to allow Lisa Gillis to join the meeting telephonically due to work.
Make up.
Motion to allow Lisa Gillis to join telephonically due to work.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
Trustee Brennan,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Excuse me. Trustee Bachner,
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
Welcome, Lisa.
Are you there, Lisa? I think she's there. Is she there? Okay.
Trustee Gillis, can you hear us?
You see it?
Oh, I
Oh,
can hear
there
her.
she is.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we can kind of sort of hear you. We know you're there. All right. So now we have no public comment. We're just going right into the discussion of the 2026 village operating budget. So, thank you. So I'll ask Matt and Rosie to talk us through this.
Is this the right location? Yeah. Okay. Okay, good evening, Village Board. Tonight, Director McAdams and myself will be presenting the proposed fiscal year 26 budget. Thanks for accommodating the committee of the whole. This is a lot to go over, so we wanted to make sure to go through it when kind of separate from the rest of the Village Board meeting. Tonight is just a presentation of the proposed budget, and we'll get any feedback or questions from the Village Board. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll hold the required public hearing for any additional public comments. And then next week, or next board meeting on April 28th, we will bring back the budget for formal adoption. And then I do want to thank village staff. A lot of work gets put into this document. It's a really great resource, even beyond all the financial numbers. There's a lot of information about department goals, fee. It's a great reference for knowing what village fees are and everything else, kind of the background for the village. So I really do encourage everyone to kind of take a look or have a copy readily available to see what staff works on. Basically, every staff member gets involved one way or another, and then Finance Director McAdams and Assistant Director Kiki Boyer kind of keep us on task with making sure the whole document gets brought together for your review. Now I'll hand it over to Rosie.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you all for doing the 6 o'clock. I think it gives us more of a chance to explain and not as much time crunch or whatever. Let's see. Okay. So the village's current budget has received the Distinguished GFOA Budget Award, and the fiscal year 2026 budget that we are presenting tonight is designed to continue receiving this prestigious award. The village board's goals and accomplishments are contained in this budget. These goals and each of the department's goals speak to the village's three guiding principles, which are to ensure that the village provides a safe and welcoming community for its residents, business owners, and institutional partners, enhance property values through strengthening quality of life, and implement strategies to stabilize our property taxes. As we move into the budget, we will basically focus on the general fund, which is our main operating fund. We will look at the other funds after we go through the general fund. It is important to note that this is the main operating fund, and this budget, as presented, is balanced. If you look at this chart, we anticipate that revenues will increase 2.64%, and reoccurring expenditures will increase 2.04% in fiscal year 2026. Some of the larger non-reoccurring expenditures listed will be financed with fund reserves. As a result, the general fund operating budget is balanced for fiscal year 2026. Part of the non-reoccurring include a fire department vehicle, a little over $79,000 for police and fire equipment, including an unarmed aerial system that will be used for parades, for different events, and for looking for, it's a great that you saw in the CIP. Also a thermal camera and some water rescue equipment. $30,000 will be for pedestrian safety improvements on Lake Street. Most of those you saw in the CIP as presented back in January. So this is a chart of our revenues, and it's broken up by category. Total revenues increased by 2.64% over last year's budget. As you can see, there's variances either going up or going down based on the category. Let's look at, if we take a look at some of the more specific revenue, we have property taxes include a 3% increase. The annual levy increase is based on the maximum of a 5% or the annual increase in the CPI, whichever is lower. From December 2022 to December 2023, the CPI increased 3.4%. The village board voted back in December to increase the levy by 3% to ease the burden on taxpayers. The revenues that we record are based on the second installment of the 2024 tax levy, which will be collected in July, and the first installment of the 2025 levy, which will be collected in February and March of 2026. The first installment is always billed on the prior year's tax levy. So we don't know yet what our 2025 tax levy is. We'll bring that to you in the fall to determine exactly what that will be. If you look at state and non-home rule sales tax revenues are slightly above the fiscal year 2025 budgeted amount due to the increase in the most recent CPI increase of 2.9% for the 12 years ending December. Even though the CPI has been lower than the last 2 years, sales tax revenues are expected to continue to remain strong. I don't know if anybody else, I received the IML notice today stating that we're going to see decreases in use tax and increase in sales tax, and this budget does reflect that. The future estimates are conservative because we are uncertain of our economy and the future state legislation. This budget does include the 1% grocery tax included in sales tax, and the loss of that revenue would have a significant impact on the budget. Income tax revenue are based on the Illinois Municipal League estimates. The fiscal year 2026 budget also allocates 60% of ambulance fees to the general fund and 40% is in SIF to help fund future street projects. So also there's refuse revenues, which are basically a pass-through from our contract that we have with LRS. This will be increased 3% based on the contract. We only started the first year of the contract. I don't know if you recall, we did not raise rates. And so in 2024 was the first year we increased with a 3% increase. So the only fee changes you're going to see in this year's budget is the increase in waste collection, the cost of bags or waste tags will go to $350, and then CRP classes were increased $20 again for the defray the cost of the program. Really, we're not getting any money from this. It's just all for the cost of the program. That keeps increasing, which is a great thing that the fire department is doing, but the cost of it is why we have to increase the fees. We will continue to look for other options if we need to evaluate other fees that may need to be increased. So this is just a chart we wanted to present to you to kind of give you an idea of the different revenue sources in a pie chart. As you can see, sales tax is 12.5% of our total revenue streams. And of that 12.5%, 48% of that is from the grocery tax. So half of our sales tax almost is from what we bring in from the grocery tax. I think it's important to see this distinction. And then if you also look at property taxes, you see that property taxes are 37.7% of our total revenues in general fund. Now, when you look at property taxes, you're like, wow, but a big portion of that actually is designated for the police and fire pension obligations that we have. So this is kind of showing over the years of how the pension levies have been in place, and you can see the general portion. Really, we haven't received more over 10 years, and the levy and the pension obligations continue to increase. And we also wanted to show you that the village receives only a portion of the property taxes that River Forest residents and businesses pay. Approximately 88% of the average property tax bill can be attributed to other taxing bodies, including the schools, the library, the forest preserves, township, and county government. I think this is a great visual of where our property taxes are going that helps the residents understand a little better. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So moving on to our expenditures. Expenditures, as you can tell, this is a snapshot of all the expenditures per category. As you can see, personnel services and benefits are where we have our large increases, and that's just we're a service industry, and that's where you're going to see the expense the greatest. But overall, our expenditures are increased 0.68%. Personnel. Sorry. So personnel services are driven by negotiated contracts with our 4 bargaining units. All 4 are currently in Contracts, our local 150 union contract expires at the end of April. And so then the other ones are as stated. Future increases for all employees range from 1.5 to 3.25, depending on the labor contract. And the budget also does include a 3% increase adjustment for non-union employees. There are no, yep.
Do we expect an update on the 150 contract at the end of the month?
Sure.
That's a good question, Trustee O'Connell. So we have scheduled the first two sessions for that in the coming weeks. We're waiting on their proposal. So we expect to bring something back forward to the board shortly after May 1st.
Okay. There are no new positions in the fiscal year 2026 budget. As we look at benefits, part of what's included in benefits are the police and fire contributions, and those are we're seeing a little more steady as the consolidation of these funds through the state. But this is also very dependent on how the markets are, and they do have actuary. The actuary does smooth it, but it does play a big role in what our contributions are, and we follow what the actuary recommends as opposed to what the state minimum is. And we continue to beat and stay ahead of industry trends for insurance, but as all communities are seeing, the rates of insurance has increased. So the 2026 budget includes, as I state, 11%. Excuse me. See, I got choked up over that.
Yeah.
11%, 11.1 with HMO, 8.4, and for PPO. Or no, wait, PPO is 11%. HMO is 8.4, and dental is 2.2. And we, Trish and Matt worked very hard with IPBC and the provider to reduce rates. Their first rates that came in were astronomical. So they worked really hard to get that down.
Mm-hmm.
So as we look at contractual, as you can see, basically we're flat as to from last year, but it's because we've reduced in certain areas and seen pretty hefty increases in other areas. As you can see, Westcom's contribution has gone up 26%. Refuse, I already just talked about, that's a 3% increase. And then liability insurance, and that's all based on claims. So as our claims, we're hoping as those older claims that we had incurred, several years ago will drop off. That will help our liability insurance premiums. And consulting is basically, what we use for all of our commissions and miscellaneous consulting for the village. Our GEMT expenses, which are the expense to offset ambulance billings, that is based on calculations. And last year, I think the first year, because I think we started last year, we kind of we had a pretty significant fee in there, or a cost, and so this year we were able to bring it down a little because it's a little more. Our number this year is more accurate now that we have a year's worth of experience on that. Any questions here? So still on contractual, these are basically what our ongoing services are, from professional services to maintenance to software licenses, and our licenses as we look at our cameras throughout the village, each of those cameras has a license fee of $500. And we're talking, how many cameras do we have now? Maybe 25, I think, or something. So those license fees have added up. 45. See, I knew because I knew it was close to like $20,000 in license fees that now we have to account for. It's a wonderful program and use, but so these things keep, adding to our expenses. And then commodities, basically just there's some equipment in here that we've included, but it's also reduced since last year we had more equipment that we purchased in the commodities line items. This includes like uniforms, vehicle parts, gas and oil, and gas and oil is all dependent on the economy also. And then lastly, the last category is capital outlay. This year, it's portion of this is for a new fire department vehicle that would be added to the fleet if this is purchased, and improvements along Lake Street for safety.
So Rosie, I've got a question. Where is the additional money that we get from the Sheridan? Where would that be? The additional ambulance fees?
Are you talking about the impact fees?
Sure.
Those are put into the general fund, and we've accounted for that. There's a line item also for next year too. So we have accounted for that, and we did plan for next year too with that.
Mm-hmm.
Where, maybe Chief, you can answer this question. Where are we at on the fire truck, and how much of that have we paid or not paid?
Bob, you should probably speak into the microphone.
Where are we at with the fire truck, and how much have we paid or not paid, and where's that in the budget?
Yeah, we haven't paid any of it yet. I just got notified a month or two ago that it's pushed back to November of 2027 for delivery. So I know Matt and Rosie have accounted for that.
Yeah.
So that,
for that at that
in
time.
27?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions here? So as you can see, here's our 3 year projections and revenues, expenditures we do show a deficit going in the out years, and I think it's partially because we're very conservative in our estimates, and we try to project revenues as close as we can. Expenditures are rising, due to, like I already showed you. But each year we review and try to plan as best we can and work to avoid those future year deficits. And as you see, even with the deficit spending in the future years, we're still above our 25% fund balance. So we still we're still working hard to make sure that is maintained. On page 66 of the actual document is a great view of the general fund projections for the 3 years line item detail. Now I'll hand it back to Matt.
Okay, so as I mentioned a little bit earlier, in the budget document, each department has has its own section where it spells out what our accomplishments were in the current budget year and what the goals are for the next budget year, in addition to a whole host of performance measures and other figures there for reference. And all of those goals kind of fit into the three overarching principles of increasing quality of life, stabilizing property taxes, and of course public safety. So I won't go through all of the goals that are in there, but I'll touch on a couple for each of the departments. And a lot of the goals and accomplishments are kind of the same each year. You know, we're always trying to keep crime down, get our response time, keep our response time where it is, and keep implementing the comprehensive plan and other items like that. But there are specific things that come up each year as conditions change. So for the administration department, we continue to grow our communication subscribers. We tried a couple different things with communications this year with in-person meetings, and I think we've seen a pretty successful increase in subscribers, and also our click rate remains very high for our digital communications. We implemented the new service request platform, which we've already seen hundreds of requests submitted in the past few months, and I think we've gotten some really good feedback on that from residents. IT, this budget year, we hired a new consultant to help us with our information technology, and that's something that maybe the residents and the public don't see on a day-to-day basis, but as Rosie alluded to, there's so much now in all of our departments that are reliant on IT on a day-to-day basis, and we believe that the new consultant and some of the planning has gotten us into a spot where to support all of those items that really are a help to the community. Fiscal 26, I think here pursuing the development of commercial corridors remains a primary goal for the administration department, in addition to negotiating some of our upcoming labor contracts and other economic development programs, including the TIF program that the village board approved last meeting. We'll be rolling that out in the next couple of weeks with May 1st. That will be live. Police department here, I want to, it's a good example of every department's one of the primary goals is seeking out grants for our purchases. There's not a lot of grants that necessarily cover day-to-day operational expenses and staffing, but by having grants that pay for a lot of the capital purchases, it will help kind of take the pressure off or allow us to potentially reallocate revenues if we see fit. So the police department through the Attorney General's office has been successful in getting grants for body cameras and other tools to kind of help with retail theft. You may have seen around town a new camera trailer that we can strategically put out really mostly for commercial corridors, but that's just another tool that kind of allows us to be flexible and responsive and proactive to potential things that are going on in the community. Police department has put a lot of effort into community engagement and putting out a lot of information. Recently started posting weekly incident reports and continuing those quarterly community safety meetings, which the next one is coming up on April 30th. And the police department's the front line is the online module that residents use to do bike registration or vacation watch or overnight parking, and that's the police department's really taken steps to expand the use of that, and it's very user friendly. I think we've gotten some good response from that. And one thing here, continue about partnerships. We continue to work with Thrive as one of our partner for mental health response. You may remember a year or two ago, some of the funding model kind of changed with Thrive, and in order to maintain their level of service, we had a agreement for a few years that gradually increased our contribution to Thrive, and that's reflected in our budget as well. Fire department, actually just today, the new record management system went live for the fire department. That's the village board approved that purchase a couple months ago. We believe that's going to be a great tool for residents and the village board to kind of easily access information about what our fire department is doing. Fire, just like police, is focused on public safety and kind of expanding the training. Rosie referenced the CPR training has been a huge hit, and I know we were recognized at a conference with our partnership with Concordia that was highlighted a few months ago too. So that continues to grow as we try to pursue being a heart healthy community, I think is the right phrase. And Public Works, one of the main projects will be the ongoing inventory of our lead service lines and also promotion of our lead service reimbursement program. As we're about 2 years out from when our inventory will be due to the state of Illinois. So with the help of residents filling out the survey on themselves and also staff going out and inspecting each line throughout town, those efforts will continue until we're done. The Public Works Garage was recently renovated, kind of very much improved the workspace for the Public Works crew, and also the implementation of biodiesel fuel, which was recognized at the last meeting. That also kind of was a slightly cheaper alternative to the fuel we were using prior. Then in terms of moving forward, a lot of the continued maintenance to make sure that our infrastructure remains in great shape. Our street resurfacing project is starting this week, and village-wide traffic study, that continues to be a priority for the village. You likely have seen the placement of delineators out throughout the community as a budget-friendly but effective way to kind of start the traffic calming on some of our major corridors. All right, pass it back to Rosie.
So like I said before, we'll move on to the water, other funds like the water and sewer fund, which is our only enterprise fund, basically, which means we collect revenues and then use that for the services. This chart displays the water and sewer activity for this year and for next year. Operating revenues are expected to exceed operating expenses in 2025, and total expenses are higher because they include the capital expend. As you see, the budget in 2025 had a large capital expenditure, which we did not end up proceeding with that project for the lead service yet. And so fiscal year 2025 includes the partial work of the inventory. And then in fiscal year 2026, it still includes monies for the lead service, but also water main projects and other projects that you saw in the CIP when we presented that. There you go, CIP.
So back in January, we presented the CIP. There were only a few minor changes to that document that is incorporated into the budget document as well. So here's just, Rosie kind of just touched on some of the projects. The water main replacement, that is a little higher than what was introduced in January, and that's because of the project that we are doing to improve the pressure up in the northeast corner of town. The project that will take place on the Priory campus is being carried over to. We had hoped to get that project completed in fiscal year 25, but that we'll be doing that in fiscal year 26. So that project is now shown as an expense in 2026. And then here, the inventory and the lead service line replacement. This is just the continuation of that of our subsidy program, where we assist residents that want to get a jump on replacing their lead service lines.
So each year we base our water rates, either determine if we need to raise rates based on our operational needs and on the rates that the city of Chicago passes through to us. Each year, the city water rates can be increased up to 5%. Or based on the CPI, kind of like what we use for taxes. But so this year, the letter that we received from Chicago, the rates on 6/1 will go up 4%, which equates to a 14-cent rate increase for our water rate. And we did not increase any rates. For our operational, we just increased for the water rate. No sewer rate increases. So you'll see that our rates go from $12.40 to $12.54 for the fiscal year, starting in June. As you can see, as you look at the projections, we only include for the next 3 years the rate increases based on Chicago rate increases. We assume anywhere from 1 to 2, or I think we use a 2.25 increase in those city of Chicago water rate each year to come up with our rates each year. As you can see, as we look at the projections, we have healthy balances in fiscal year 26, and then 27 it reduces based on projects that we estimate but in fiscal year 2028 is where we'll see the effects of the fund balance. So we'll reanalyze each year and decide as we'll bring to the board if we believe that a rate increase is needed. Any questions on the water fund? Page 69 of the document has the water fund's detailed projections for the 3 years. So you can see a little better picture of the expenditures and the revenues coming in. So we also have, in our budget, we include the pension funds as part of our budget. The annual contribution for 2026 is based on the actuarial assumptions that are used each year and our funding policies. Each fund uses a 7% assumption on rate of return, and this is where you can see fluctuations, but we have agreed with both funds to use the 7%. And the budget represents the amount of the 2025 property tax levy. The fiscal year 2025 budget was based on the actuarial assumptions we received in October. So we make an adjustment each year. We do a budget amendment to make sure that our budget matches what the actuarial requirement is. So this estimate that we're bringing forward is a 1.29% increase based on what we've seen over the past years. And if that changes, whether it's higher or lower, we'll come back with a budget amendment after we get final tax levy information.
Yeah.
And now, back to you. Any question on pension funds or any of that?
No.
I know that's kind of confusing.
No.
Okay. The next few slides are capital project funds. So a lot of this was presented back in January when the CIP was. Motor fuel tax fund that funds our road resurfacing project that is just getting underway here this week, and then some of the other maintenance and items that we to maintain our streets. You'll see snow and ice control expenditures. That's actually on the village board agenda tonight to participate in the state's co-op for bulk salt purchasing for next year. Another major capital fund is our capital equipment replacement fund. This is where our equipment and vehicles are primarily purchased out of. So Chief Gartner referenced the delay in the expected for the large Quint process. So that will now be fiscal year 2028. So that the SURF fund kind of projects what contributions are needed each year to make sure we have enough money on hand for those purchases when they come up. So that deferral and any other deferrals that we can do just based on proactive maintenance or lack of use, we defer, and that kind of helps decrease the contribution that might be needed. The SURF fund is very well funded. So we had an opportunity to decrease the contribution to the SURF this year, but the fund remains 85% funded for all future expected purchases. And some of those projects or purchases are listed here. One of the main ones would be our the replacement of our emergency generator at Village Hall, which is about at its useful life, even though it's been passing its yearly inspection. And then our capital improvement fund. This is the fund that pays for building improvements, IT, and then other infrastructure projects. Our EV stations are paid out of the SIF as listed on the next page. Thanks. And then some of the design work for future traffic control improvements, and we're hoping to hear soon on some grants for some of these projects. The EV charging station installation will largely be covered by grants or rebates, which is great, and the Harlem Viaduct project, that $125,000 is fully will be reimbursed by the state as part of a grant from DCEO. Then the other I mentioned the largest change from the CIP presentation in January, but there were a couple other items. Renovation of redoing the police garage floor in tandem with the apparatus bay fire floor was added, just increased $10,000. A HR module software purchase for us was added in there, but we also decreased the that wasn't us. Portillo's Catering walked.
Bring it in. This is it.
Yeah, right. And then we also decreased the number of computer replacements for the next year, which was $25,000 less than what was presented back in January. Okay. Then moving on, included in the budget, as Rosie mentioned a few times, we kind of project at least 3 years out. I know our CIP projects even further out, 5 years, but this is a way for us just to prepare as much as we can for decisions that will affect us in a few years. And part of that is budgeting conservatively. The out years do show a deficit that's not uncommon for how we've done in the past, and we've managed to make decisions when it comes to budget time to either defer projects or reallocate revenues to make things work so that we maintain the services that we provide for the community. And as said, the budget for fiscal year 26 is presented as balanced. Clearly there's a couple trends that are things we're monitoring. Health insurance increase. We had been fortunate the past few years that the premium increases had very modest increases or sometimes decreases. This year was quite the opposite, but Trish did a great job in getting that number down more in line with the rest of the pool as it should have been, which was significant savings for the village. But salary growth is a significant part of the budget, and in order to remain competitive, we need those salaries to be competitive, especially in our public safety domains. There's less applicants or less interested in those jobs than there used to be, and it's kind of a race between communities to attract those officers or firefighters. So it's something we want to keep tabs on and try and be competitive in a way that doesn't, but also manage those costs. Then revenues, the village board agenda tonight would be the maintaining the grocery tax, which is a significant revenue source for us. We're fortunate enough to have some very popular grocery stores, and it would be a strong staff recommendation to adopt that ordinance later tonight. But otherwise, property tax levy and other fees we're continuing to look at. Film permit fees, building permit fees, there's other things that we are looking at that can kind of help offset some of the expenditures that are increasing. And then, of course, as I mentioned, grant opportunities are we look every day for grants. So I think overall, the village is in a strong position, as evidenced by our reserves being well above where they need to be per our fund balance policy. There are challenges that we've touched on, and there's always some uncertainty. We'll monitor. Even today with the update from IML, we're just kind of getting used to what different legislative changes have on it. Public Works has been monitoring the city of Chicago's potential plans in the next couple of years to kind of do their water funding, or they have significant capital needs as well, and that might lead to large increases that we will need to be prepared for. And then, again, pursuing grant funding. And then, again, just process-wise, in a few minutes here, we'll have the public hearing that's required, and then we'll bring the budget ordinance back for consideration and adoption at our next meeting on the 28th. Are there any questions or comments or concerns now? And feel free, if there's anything that you have questions, feel free to reach out to Rosie or myself over the next couple days or weeks if there's anything that jumps out at you or anything else.
Anything?
I just said one thing. When we did the alleys, how long was the debt on that? Do you recall?
I believe it's 20 years.
20 years? Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, what was your question, Bob?
The debt.
When we did when we
Oh, the
incurred the
debt.
debt
Okay,
for
the
to do
bond.
the alleys, how long that debt was? Thanks.
Any further questions? Well, I have a comment. I think I think the most telling chart in this budget is 182, page 182, which is the year-over-year property tax levy between 2014 and 2024. And our promise to the taxpayers is trying to keep it stable. And it clearly is a stable property tax. So that is because of all of you continuing to, as you said, look at your expenditures, ensure that we spend what we stay within budget and we don't spend outside of our budget. I mean, in fact, if you look at 2024 with all of the governing units, which all of them has done very well, our tax rate has gone down by 2 points. That's big. So if you think about that, given that it's 65% of our revenue, so I applaud all of the units of government to continue to look at their expenditures. I also want to say thank you, Matt, thank you, Rosie, and all the team. You could tell just by looking at the expenditures that you are really working hard together and collaborating together, which helps us be more effective and more efficient. So for that, I thank you. I mean, clearly expenditures are not going down. I mean, we know that CPI is going to go up, not down. It's hit kind of the lowest that it was in the past. So with that, we have to be cognizant of how, outside of the property taxes, what other revenue sources, we need to look at. So that will be a task that we'll all here around this table and amongst the staff to continue to look at revenue opportunities outside of property taxes, and of course, water fund, which hits our residents as well. So with that, I think I appreciate, unless there's other questions or comments by the trustees, I want to say thank you on behalf of the village board and for doing this hard work. It's not easy. I know you rolled up your sleeves and did the hard work. So again, thank you for all of that. So if there's no other further questions, we'll just close the meeting. So if
Motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
Trustee Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell,
Yes.
Trustee Bachner,
Yes, and thank you to the entire village team for
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Gee.
Trustee Vasquez,
Yes.
Trustee Brennan,
Yes.
Is that
President
on?
Ducey,
Yes.
meeting adjourned.
Okay, great.